Welcome back to Artie Lange's Rehab Center. We're in a group therapy session now. When we left off, Mike was telling us about his feelings towards the Tattaglia family. Ever see the Saturday Night Live in the 70s where Belushi plays Vito Corleone in therapy?
No.
It's Belushi plays Vito Corleone in therapy. It's like the first year, and Lorraine Newman's a Valley girl in it too. So Elliot Gould's the therapist, and he goes, when we last went away, Vito was telling us about his feelings towards the Tattaglia. And Belushi does a perfect Brando. He's like, yeah, no, I got feelings of insecurity, like I'm gonna get killed. And Lorraine Newman goes, Vito, you're blocking. I want to talk about, I got a real music question. Like, some of those hardcore metal bands, like you say, melody and stuff like that, that's where I guess and I don't know anything about music. I was just saying during the commercial, like, you could lock me in a room with Eric Clapton and a guitar for 10 years and I would come out not knowing how to play guitar. He would come out a very mad person. Like, I think I need that. That's where you lose me on some of the power metal, death metal stuff. But, like, these new bands that come in here, I can't believe they discover new riffs. Isn't it amazing, like, musically? Like, it seems like every riff's been done.
Some of them haven't.
Some
of them are recycling. Like there's a lot of knocks.
They just recycle a riff, right?
There's actually a lot of knocks on some of the newer bands right now that, you know, are rehashing Pantera, rehashing Metallica.
If you're a fan of a group, how could you not imitate?
But you know, if you think about it, look at Led Zeppelin. One of the biggest criticisms of Led Zeppelin to music purists is that they ripped off everything from the blues artists.
Well, they stole the lyrics, but
even the riffs. I mean, there's songs
the
that
first
are
record was,
totally.
It was all, you know.
So the hardcore blues
like Robert
fans,
Johnson and Muddy Waters.
Totally, and those guys didn't get paid or get credited for it. So
that is brutal.
and think about this
that
too.
That is brutal. When you think of Led Zeppelin banging everything that walks
stuff on YouTube where the songs
they compare
are
like, babe, I'm going to leave you in Dazed and Confused. I've seen that. Yeah.
Zeppelin's flying on their own plane, and these guys are playing some sort of little bar in New Orleans with a tip jar out.
Right.
Write the songs.
But then they became like Jimmy Page.
But think about this too. Even a music form that I'm personally not into, but something like hip hop. Those guys, there's two songs right now, two of the biggest songs in the last few years in hip hop. The sample in them is Billy Squier.
Right, he's the most sampled artist, according to him.
The new hit that Eminem has is The Stroke. And Jay-Z, one of his biggest hit, 99 Problems or whatever, was I forget what that was. His stuff has been sampled, and I talked to Billy about it, and he's like,
he gets money, right?
He said he makes more money from having a Jay-Z lift a sample.
Why not?
He doesn't care. He's all good with it.
I got really mad as like my music purist thing came out when I saw P. Diddy's video with Cashmere, and Page is actually in the video. Like, what did they pay him for that? And the answer is probably a lot of money, so he's fine with it.
But also, you'd be surprised, maybe not, because a lot of those guys think about it, even though you don't like
just
them.
To be relevant.
A guy like, here's
that sucks.
You know,
but that's the reason.
But
the manager said it.
Right. Some manager got in his ear. You know, hey man, you can get into a new demographic.
Right.
I think it's more impressive when a guy like Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath, who's basically written every heavy metal riff ever created, can still come up with riffs after 40 or 45 years.
That fascinates me.
That's fascinating.
I have zero musical talent, but I'm such a fan of music. There's a documentary about that. It's called Muscle Shoals. It's on HBO now, about that famous recording studio in Alabama. And the Stones recorded 3 songs there in 2 days that they wrote on the spot, and 2 of them were Wild Horses and Brown Sugar. And they're interviewing Keith Richards, and it's just amazing. He goes, Mick Jagger goes, Keith had this song Wild Horses, but it wasn't really anything. And they cut to Richards, and he goes, I don't have the riff how to go in the bathroom for a while. And then I come out and I go, okay, now we got a song. And it's Wild Horses. Like, where does that come from?
Yeah.
Well, and then Brown Sugar. Like, it took about 10 minutes to write Brown. Where does that come from?
What about the documentary for Exile on Main Street? Did you see that?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And they're on heroin, strung out of their minds in France in this basement. And Exile is probably my favorite Stones record.
Yeah, that's how they did it.
And it's insane. How do you come up with that?
The book is better. If you read Exile on Main Street, A Season in Hell with the Rolling Stones, right before they went to do that, they were broke, you know, and taxes and stuff. And right before they went to record that, Keith Richards found out that Mick Jagger was banging his wife. So the record company goes, oh my God, they're never going to talk again. And they never said a word to each other. But Keith Richards would go, and the way they worked was he would write the music, and Jagger would write the lyrics. So he had to do something first. So they get there at 9 a.m. He wouldn't come down till 10 p.m. They'd leave. He'd call him at 3 a.m. and go, I wrote a song, get over here. They go ready to kill him, and like tumbling dice would come out of his guitar. And I go, wow, you can't argue with that. But like AC/DC even, like, are they still relevant to you? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their last album, they put a great album out. The last one, Black Ice, like 5
Right.
years ago. They probably got one more album and tour in them before.
Yeah. I
Because
think
Brian Johnson's, I think, 61, maybe
They're
turning
amazing.
62.
Same
Wow.
three chords for the last 40 years, and it
Right.
still works.
And they're
No, I know,
probably the
right.
biggest
Yeah.
band in the world. Literally, I'm not
Yeah.
even joking.
And
I
what
mean,
do they do?
across the board, globally, maybe, without a doubt, in the top 3 biggest bands
Well,
in the world
the-
of all genres.
the best rock song ever, gun to your head's got to be like, You Shook Me All Night Long is like the class. I mean, it's hacky almost now because it's overplayed, but really, when you first heard that, like,
Yeah.
and I saw them 14 years old as my first concert. That was unbelievable. But like, is that just they just rearrange riffs? Like how would Hell is and the other one's it's just a power
Yeah.
chord, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're just great songwriters, and I mean, just that they're doing it. What's it, 72 or 73? They put
Right.
their first record
It's
out.
a consistency.
formula.
People know
They
what they're
do.
going
It's
to
a
get.
formula.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a formula. There's a consistency to it. It's and every AC/DC song you can kind of bop your head to it.
Yeah.
It's almost there's so. I mean, we've been to weddings and people have danced to AC/DC.
I
It's
still
like-
come on stage to Hell's Bells because that just gets me going.
Yeah.
Me too. The Raiders came out to Hell's Bells.
They're right.
before every
That
game. That gives
do they
me
get paid
chills,
for that?
man.
Like when the Raiders come out to Hell's Bells,
sure.
they get paid?
I don't know how that
I
works.
think they do get residuals on that stuff
I don't know,
and,
it
and
depends.
royalties.
I'm not sure. It's like in stadium
Metallica
play.
seemed like with Enter Sandman, they seem very happy about all
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, right.
What's your
Mariano
question?
came
I
out
got-
and said he didn't like heavy metal. I was
I know.
surprised. He was gonna.
Well, we know his taste is a little off.
Speaking of the heavy metal stuff,
That was the last time I was on. I see Casey Stearns coming up tonight.
Yeah.
Because we were on with.
The last time Jim was on, Mariano Rivera pitched his last game, and we saw Mariano's wife, and he doesn't have,
2 hours later,
It went
we
2
were
hours.
still talking about.
he doesn't have the same taste in women as Jeter. Put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she was at the press conference with him.
Minka
we saw
Kelly
it.
didn't have a friend. Did she
No,
go-
and then it was
No.
2 hours.
Minka Kelly's friend, it's the friend that, it's my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The one that's waiting in the car in a parking lot where you're banging her in the other car.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's
But
what
you
it's
could
like.
tell, he's a baseball fan because she looked like, she looked
catcher.
like, no, who's the Triple Crown? Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah, Cabrera.
You have a
like
question?
a petite Miguel.
Yeah.
So, Don, bands nowadays, with the way the industry's changing, even the big bands seem like they have to find new ways to make money.
Yep.
Essentially. How are these death metal bands who have such a small listenership, how are they staying afloat?
Is it touring? or
Day
something?
jobs.
Yeah.
Touring,
that's
well,
true.
touring and
Yeah.
merchandise.
Merchandise. That's why if you go to a
Merch.
concert,
People
you pay
buy the
$40
shirts.
for
Yeah.
just a regular cotton T-shirt because they're not making any money on the records. They're not selling enough records to make any money. They're not getting advances. Nobody gets an advance unless you're U2. You're not
See,
getting an advance.
them I
So
don't
you honestly
mind.
make money on T-shirts.
Them I don't mind about. When you go to a Stone show or a Bruce show and it's $80 for a t-shirt, like how much money do they need?
Yeah, I know.
And they
mean,
actually
the
make
venue-
money on the
The
touring,
venue's
so-
taking 30%, and the
Yeah,
big,
right.
the big venues are taking 30% off the T-shirt or the stuff that
But
they
I
sell.
mean,
But still,
still-
the death metal bands will sell a shirt for $30. It costs
Yeah.
them $6. They pocket 24 in a rock club,
But-
and then they do a meet and greet afterwards and sign CDs. All of them do it now. They never did that stuff before.
Right.
They got to come out, so then they have a long line. People will buy the CD.
Well, it cost. I read in another Stones book, or maybe it was Exile. It cost $250,000 to take a picture with Mick Jagger and Keith Richards.
All these
250,000
artists,
each.
all these,
Corporations pay it.
all these artists are doing stuff like that. The biggest artists to the smallest. But what Don said is a great point. There are a lot of guys you'd be surprised that actually have day jobs.
Yeah.
That actually do shows on the weekend and they have day
Right,
jobs.
right.
A good
Well, like,
friend
what
of-
band are you talking about?
a
What band
great
would be
fr-
surprising?
A great friend of mine is the singer in the band Accept now. A
Right.
guy from
A pretty
Jersey.
big
He's been in the
band, yeah.
band for about 3 years. Big German metal band, but he's the new singer. He's been in about 3-4 years. He's a union electrician. So he goes to Europe, opens up a stadium show for
Wow.
AC/DC for
100,000.
100,000, comes back to Jersey
Wow.
and punches his union card the next day and goes and does electrical work.
That's
So, I mean,
unreal.
it happens. And on the flip side of that, these mega bands, whether it be Kiss or Aerosmith or whatever, they are all doing these VIP packages where you're going to spend
They
a
all
lot of
eventually
money.
sold out. The 60s are
Yeah.
officially
Paul
over.
McCartney does the same thing. They all do it.
Yeah.
Kiss sells their guitars that they play to a fan in the back afterwards if you want to give them $5,000.
Well, they got a lifestyle. It's like De Niro makes all these bad movies now, but
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
give him a break. You know, when you fly Naomi Campbell to Paris on a private jet once a month to bang her, you got to do 15 minutes and analyze this and then.
But it's really all about merch now because record sales have dried up. So a lot of bands are over touring. They're on the road more than ever because it's the only way they can make some money, and they do it with the VIP stuff and the merch and whatever they get touring. Because it used to be, Peter Criss from Kiss told me this. He said, you know, back in the 70s, we toured to sell the record because that's where we made our money, and we lost money on the road. Now it's totally reversed.
Right.
The record is just a giveaway as a promotional platform. We got to make our money on the road.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, metal has lasted a while. Like, but a metal band in the 80s to me is classic rock now. That's why I put AC/DC in.
Yeah, Motley
Totally.
Crue.
Even Motley Crue
Motley
is-
Crue was metal, right? But that's
But
not
they're classic rock now. You
They-
can hear,
no, they are, yeah,
Scorpions is classic rock.
Definitely.
Metallica, some of
Def
Metallica.
Leppard.
Def Leppard,
Definitely.
yeah.
Leopards. I thought that was always classic rock, but I guess in the 80s that was metal,
They
right?
started with a lot. They started
Yeah.
with this scene called the New Wave of British Heavy Metal, with all these British metal bands coming out,
Yeah.
late 70s, early 80s. But they quickly went into a more commercial direction.
Yeah, I read a review in the New York Times when I was in LA of Eminem's new album, and the guy says, you know, he's just writing about the same stuff over and over. He's still mad at his mother, and he hasn't grown like some classic rock writers did, you know. But you know,
But
what happened-
AC/DC still writes about the same three things.
that's-
Rocking every
'cause they're
night,
just about fun.
having sex with
right,
girls.
that's what I mean. They're just about
you
fun.
know, yeah.
They're not as pretentious as Eminem. That's my point.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't try to say, look, we're changing the world. They're like, we're in this for broads and money, right?
Yeah, they don't overthink it.
They don't lie about it.
Along with the nuts and bolts of the music too. I mean, it's G, C, and D,
Yeah,
like
man.
you said.
Right.
And they don't overthink the lyrics. They don't overthink the riffs.
See, I get mad
and
when
that
people-
makes it so easy.
Other musicians like
Not easy. But
say that. It sounds condescending. They still figured it out. They still
Well,
figured out, you know.
it's
Highway to
beautiful.
Hell.
I think people when they deem themselves songwriters, they tend to think that it's more difficult than it can be. You know, you can
But
just
Angus and
lay it
Malcolm
out
are
there.
great guitar players.
Right,
And
yeah.
Phil Rudd, I mean, there's an art to keeping that pocket like that, which is such a big part of that
It's a
sound.
lot of work. The drummers do so much work.
Yeah, I mean, it's really.
But I love he smokes the whole concert. Like, he always just
he
smoking.
does?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's hilarious.
There's three bands that pretty much, you know, played the same, so never really changed on any record in their career: Slayer, Motorhead, and AC/DC.
Yeah.
Those are the three they put, you know,
But they
and,
don't
and,
try
and
to
their
be
fans are
pompous. They're like,
hardcore.
yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson was on our show, and he was saying in the '80s, we said, did the record company ever give you pressure to start putting mousse in your hair and high hair and spandex? He's like, yeah. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. We wear jeans and T-shirts. Like, no, everybo's doing that. I'm like, why would we do
I
that?
saw that episode.
Yeah, he's like, no, we're not going to do that.
The great thing about that was like the homophobia that he has. Like, you know, that he doesn't care about.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
free.
he does the
Yeah, the
impressions.
record,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll do that for you. Whatever.
The best
You know,
thing.
I can get away with it. He's got $1 billion in a mansion. Okay, whatever.
But the best thing I can say to describe AC/DC, the best term I could use for them is working class. Like they really are. Like if you are lucky enough to know Brian Johnson as I am, and if we had him on the show, the guy is the most non-affected, normal, regular guy.
Just
you
happy
could-
to be doing it,
He
yeah.
came in 2006. I interviewed him for VH1 Classic. I said to him during the interview, just before that metal show, we're talking after the show. I said, hey, you know, I do a radio show up the street. You know, you should come by. I'd love to have you on. Sure, me son, I'll come and do it.
Me son.
He calls everybody that.
He's real Scottish, yeah.
Never
Yeah.
in a million years thought he'd do this, right? He goes, give me the address. I'll put it in me phone. Okay. Sure enough, the next night I'm on the air, security camera. There's a guy wearing a little hat.
Right.
Wow.
That's
No
hilarious.
handler, no PR, no nothing.
Just a
He
flip
comes
phone and
in,
an address.
He goes,
That's hilarious.
Eddie, me son, I'm here. What are we doing, mate? And we have this great interview. The next day, he takes the ferry, I'll never forget this, to Staten Island to get pizza.
With Mike.
He calls me up. The next day I'm on the radio. He calls me, he goes, Eddie, can I come on the radio with you for a minute? Brian, you can come on. You're Brian Johnson. Come on anytime. He says, I just want to come on. He came on the radio to thank the pizza Italian restaurant that he had dinner at in Staten Island the night before because the food was so good. Just like.
Also, I love that they don't talk up anything with like some long pompous talk. Like he went. They were going to play Back in Black, and this is all he said. He goes, "We got some Back in Black." There's no political like. I want to talk about the homeless. There's a soup kitchen. We gotta get out of here. We got some Back in Black.
We even asked him about warming up his voice, you know, the way he sings especially. I'd be like, you do anything vocally before? He's like, nah. I'm like, no. He's like, nah. He goes, the lads would kill me.
And he smokes.
He's like, if they heard me go la 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 la, he goes, they would make fun of me. They would kill me.
It's
So he
great how
doesn't do it.
super homophobic they are. It's so funny, especially nowadays because it's so political.
Right, I know.
They did the morning I met them at Stern. Which the other great thing about those guys is they're all 4'5".
Yeah.
Malcolm and Angus Young look like mid, and then Brian is this big and he towers over them. So them walking in, me and Howard both looked at each other. That's the funniest thing I've ever seen. And it was a Tuesday, and they were doing a concert at Roseland that I went to, and Brian Johnson said to Howard, "Come on, Howard, come on." He goes, "No, it's a Tuesday. I gotta get to sleep." He goes, "Come on, Howard, don't be a tart. Don't be a tart."
You got to respect a band that, as part of their stage prop, is a 90-foot tall fat chick riding on a train.
Yeah.
What other band would do that these days?
While they play Whole Lotta Rosie.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole lot of her. So you guys got picked up now. How many years have you been on?
We've been on 5 years now. And we got a new season starting January 18th.
Yep.
That's great.
New episodes. We're going to tape in New York City this time, too. Usually in L.A.
How many episodes you got done?
We haven't done any yet, but
I mean, how many have you done totally in the past?
Probably about 110,
Wow.
somewhere around
Change.
there.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Sure
great,
is.
man.
Yeah, we're going
it's
to do
been
another 12.
How do you keep coming up with guys? Like, how do you find guests? Like, what do you you call up, Scorpion and see who's available? or-
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
I
do you
mean,
find that people, because like Artie's talking about, you treat them so well and you know everything about them, do you find that people are jumping at the opportunity? Is it easy to get these big name guys?
Well, Eddie
coming
knows
in?
these guys for a long time. He's doing radio for 30 years, so
Yeah.
he's friends with a lot of them.
Right.
So they're comfortable to come in. He could just call them and go, hey, we're taping this date. You want to come?
I mean, in the history of the show, there's probably been like 2 guys that I've never interviewed before, if that. Like almost everyone I've interviewed 10 times before on radio, so we
Right.
know each other. It's comfortable, it's easy. The biggest challenge with booking the show, honestly, is the schedule, because we do it so sporadically.
Right.
You know, we only at the most do it once a week. We're not like this where it's 5 nights a week and people know you're here and we're going to book
it's a
to
lot
be
of
on.
work.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's like needle in a haystack. And what did we just talk about a second ago? Bands tour more than ever now. So it's like, okay, well, we're in LA or New York. We have these 12 dates or 8 dates or 10 dates. You have to be here. Of course, you have to be with it. Oh, you're playing in Belgium that night? Sorry, you're out.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's really, the scheduling is the hardest part because it's not a Monday to Friday or a consistent show. And then we'll stop for a few months, sometimes longer, and then start up again. So it's really, everyone, most people want to do it. It's just
There's
trying
great
to make it
stories on the
sync
show.
up.
Like I
Yeah.
saw the one with Alice Cooper, and that's a real guy. And he's had a great Elvis story. We got to take another break, but thanks, guys, for coming in. So when is it
Yeah,
going to
man.
premiere? Do you know?
January 18th.
January 18th.
VH1
Season
Classic.
13, yeah.
Yeah, season
All right.
13.
Yep,
Every Saturday
Still
for
in
the
low
following.
def.
Yeah, stunning low
absolutely.
def.
SD. We're all about the 4:3 on VH1
This is the
Classic.
season you get rich. Season 6 is where you really, that's
Yeah.
where Ray Romano breaks it in.
6, we're in 13.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it should be coming at any moment.
Oh, thanks, sorry. I just bought a house. I'll hold you to that.
All right, we got to take a break, and when we come back, the great Chris Mannix will be here. And these guys, again, That Metal Show. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man. We got to have you on with us.
I'm coming, man.
Yes.
I'm coming, absolutely.
All right.
The Artie Lange Show, back after this.
The Artie Lange Show, weeknights on Audience, only on DirecTV.